Hi there everyone, Lars here with another Writer's Rant, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And in light of my recent reviews of The Rings of Power, and also due to the fact that I am currently editing 2 novels, I need to let off some steam and especially talk about the process of editing. Now, I know that we've talked about this extensively here on YouTube and also on our podcast, but it's something that's honestly very, very important. And I can just right now point to my recent reviews of The Rings of Power, where I said very honestly, if we would take Tolkien out of this and you look at this show as just an original product, it's a very nice first draft. It's a great story, but it's very obviously a first draft. And as such, it is riddled with problems. So this is a notion I want you to immediately just get out of your head. However you need to do it. Get it out of your head that your first draft is a masterpiece. Because it isn't. The problem is that we live in a society of creatives, especially if you're someone who looks up to Hollywood, or if you're someone who looks on over to some of the bigwigs who are just cranking out books left and right. These are people who like to brag that they get it all done in the first try. Ha! I laugh in their faces for that because I know that they are not getting it done in the first try. It is such a rare thing for someone to do that. You might as well see a pig flying with griffins through the sky and onto that beautiful sunset before you have a perfect first draft. It doesn't happen. So get that notion out of your head. The reason why these people can write a first draft and then throw it away to be published or to be produced into a show or into a movie and move on to the next project is because they are relying on teams of editors to basically fix everything for them, and they rely on other people to do all of the rest of the work. Because I'm a creative, I've got stuff I've got to do, and there are way too many novice authors who have that kind of thinking, but they don't have the teams of editors there to help them out. They just think that they've cranked out something beautiful, they're going to move on to the next story, and they're going to push and try to publish their story, thinking it is the best thing since sliced cheese, and then they get really angry and really upset when people are like, no, this isn't the best thing since sliced cheese, not even since grated cheese. So again, please divorce yourself of the notion that your first draft is perfect, because it isn't. I still clearly remember back when I, as a novice author, at the very beginning, was just like, hey, what I've written is absolutely stunning and beautiful. This thing is going to be loved by everyone. And there were a couple of stories that I wrote just the first draft for, and I'm like, I'm going to move on to the next story because I'm just bubbling over with all of this creativity. I must let it loose. And so I go and I move to the next story, I'd write that book, and then I'd be like, now it's time to pitch my first story, my first book, out to editors and publishers, and let's see what they have to say. And it was a nightmare, because it was awful. And I really had to humble myself, and another thing I had to do is I had to get elbow deep in the muck and mire that is editing. And so that brings me actually to where I currently am, working on 2 novels that I am editing. It is a mess. It is a pain. Editing saps you of energy and strength. I am in awe of the authors who enjoy the editing process, because for me, oh my gosh, I hate it. But I've learned that it is absolutely essential. You have to edit your story. So, what are some things that we can do to try to make the editing process a little bit better? My first recommendation to you is this. Once you've divorced yourself of any stupid notion that your first draft is perfect, start rereading through your first draft. Now then, there are 2 ways in which you can do this. You can just read the story all the way through and then try to edit it. That can be really good to get a great bird's eye view of what's going on. Or you can take it chapter for chapter. Now then, I personally tend to go more for the chapter to chapter route, because I already have outlines and notes that give me the general bird's eye view, and I know where my story is supposed to go. And if I've deviated from that outline, I have made notes, or I've made it very clear where those alterations are. So that way, I can account for that when I do my editing process. When I read through my first draft all in one go, when I realize just how awful and crappy it is, that's kind of draining and depressing. And I've seen with many other novice authors that it kind of derails them, that they're like, everything is awful, my book is awful, and they lose all faith in it. But that's not the way that you should see your work. Your work is a diamond in the rough that needs to be torn out of the slag and the stone, cut up, and then polished in order to be its perfect self. So you gotta do the editing. So if you feel like your constitution is strong enough to read through your entire first draft, awesome. Otherwise, prepare yourself to go chapter by chapter by chapter. Another bit of advice that I would give to you in the editing process is this: don't try to crank out your book all at once. You can easily do that for the first draft if you're just filled with vigor and vim and with energy and your creativity is just overflowing. You're like, I must tell my whole story. Your first draft is for that, when you just get everything out, where you get your entire story out there. But the editing process, your drafts number 2 through whatever, it's very hard to pull that off, again, without completely going off the rails. And again, it's very draining to review and to edit an entire book. So don't try to do it all within a week. Definitely don't try to do it all within a week. Don't even try doing it all within a month. Give yourself time to take your story and work on it bit by bit in order to complete it. Give yourself, though, some serious goals. Don't be like some other novice authors out there who are like, I am editing, and it's 3 years later and they're still somewhere in their second draft. You don't want to be there. Give yourself some realistic goals and say, okay, I have written like 150,000 page, whew, that's a lot. I've written 150,000 words in this book. If you've written 150,000 pages, congratulations. The editing process is going to be awful. But let's say I've written 150,000 words to my book. Okay, then. I know I can easily go through 2,000, 3,000 words a day easy, and my chapters are around 4,000, 5,000 words. Okay, well, I'm going to take some time to maybe go chapter by chapter a day. You break it up, you think about, okay, what can I do? What can't I do? Oh, I've got a birthday party to go to. I'm going to be going on vacation. Oh, I have exams to do. I'm working on the side, so that eats up quite a bit of time, so I only really have about an hour. You figure out what your schedule is going to be, and you set for yourself a realistic goal to aim for. And then you start working diligently towards that goal. Don't overwork yourself. Don't burn yourself out. Set a reasonable goal that gives you plenty of time, but still pushes you to edit your book within a reasonable chunk of time. So kind of again, taking myself as an example, working on 2 books simultaneously, these books are over 200,000 words long. Easy. Given everything that I've got to do from day to day and things that are coming up and adventures and holidays and birthday parties and whatnot, I'm like, you know what? If I didn't have anything to do and I could completely dedicate myself just to writing, I could probably do this in a month. But you know what? Because that's definitely not the way that life works, I'm giving myself 3 months to work on these books, chapter by chapter. It means I have to put in the work. It means I have to work almost every day to do just a little bit here on these books. But it's something that is manageable. It's something that is doable. You can do the same for yourself. And we've already talked about setting goals. I'll even link one of the videos that I've done back in the day about how you can set some good goals for yourself when it comes to writing. So make sure that you are editing your book, because your book needs to be edited. Divorce yourself of that hubris that says that your first draft is perfect. Make sure that you know how you're going to edit your book and give yourself plenty of time to edit your book and set reasonable goals. Now, if there's any one more thing that I can say as far as the whole editing process goes, and this is actually something that I've brought up in a previous video, but I'm going to reiterate it here because it deserves to be said again. If you find yourself losing that creative spark or losing steam while you're editing, have a side story that you can work on. When you're just like, I just can't edit today, I just don't know what it is, I just don't feel it, turn your attention to another little story and work on it for that day, and then get right back into your schedule with doing your editing. having a little side project, not a huge project, do not let it become a huge project, but having a little side project on the side that you can unleash some creative energies into is not only a great way of building up your catalog of works, but it's a great way of keeping yourself motivated, keeping your creativity sharp, and giving yourself a chance to recuperate from the editing process. Trust me, while that sounds like it's a whole bunch of work, it is absolutely worth it to have another little side project on the side. That will greatly help you in the editing process. Alright, so with that being said, I wish you all the best of luck in the editing process. One of the things, though, that we as Camille's Harem have done in the past and that we still offer as a kind of service is we will have a look at some of the things that you are writing and give you some in-the-moment feedback. Having a writing group to help you out, especially with editing, is one of the best things that you can have. So please feel free to use us as Camille's Harem as a writing resource to help you out with the editing process and with creating your other drafts. Because having feedback from people who are not invested in your story, but who are interested in helping you to succeed, is one of the best ways that you can see some mistakes that you might not have otherwise seen. They can tell you, hey, the scene is working or it's not working, or they can tell you, look, this chapter, as much as I know you like it, might have to be cut, or you might have to do it completely differently, because not every author is in the mindset where they can say, I'm going to rewrite my entire book. Oh boy, that takes a lot of courage. I have done that once for one book where I said, no, completely scrapped it from beginning to end and rewrote it completely differently. That took a lot of courage. And thankfully, I had Camille's Harem, I had my friends here at my back helping me along the way. So hopefully we can be the same for you, because editing is one of the hardest parts in this adventure that we call writing. Now, with all that being said, if you're looking for more writing advice, please check out our other videos here on Camille's Harem. We have more on over at our podcast, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have other writing exercises for you to check out over at our Pinterest page. You can obviously get a hold of us and become a part of our growing community of novice authors. Links for all that and more are in the description below. And until the next video, y'all, good luck with your writing, good luck with your editing, and tschüss.